take us home.
I'm going to try and take us home, all right?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, now I'm going to disappear because I want it to be in present mode, okay?
Okay.
All right. So here we go. This is my presentation on basically how I developed into a social worker. My metaphor behind this whole thing, when I thought of creating a metaphor, the first thing I thought of was the developmental theory, all of the pieces that it takes to develop into who we are as a person. So I took that theory and what we learned in human behavior in the social environment and kind of created it for how I became a social worker. For the purposes of this presentation, I will be presenting both competencies 1 and 9, kind of to start out and then finish. So, right now, I'm under development. I've spent 12 years in the human service field between 2007 and to the present. As Maureen Holland kind of stated, I have been in all different sorts of areas of the human service field. I've worked with animals starting when I was in 6th grade, 4-H, bringing them to fairs, bringing them to petting zoos, meeting people, then working at Hancock Shaker Village. I've worked at the Boys Club for years, inside of the club, and then also as a camp counselor. From there, I went off to LaSalle College as an undergrad student, where I was going to be a pre-law student. From there, I did take a break, and I came back and decided I wanted to do the Elms College program, which led me to do some gen eds at BCC. And then Elms College, and then now I believe I will be going to graduate school. So the purpose of this is to see how I will grow throughout this all. Now, cutting my presentation short from the original version, I did want you to see the metaphor behind it all. There are 9 competencies, so for me, each one was going to be worth 11% to get me to that full 100% social worker. So each one has its corresponding percentage, just so when you see that in the little bottom hand corner, you understand. So my personal...
Because Tom did not.
Thought I would include it. So this is a part of my personal statement, which is, I do have the next 3 slides are my personal statement, but I, instead of reading it verbatim, will just kind of go over it with you. When I was 17 years old, I entered college at LaSalle College as a legal studies student. I thought for the longest time I wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up. From the time I was a little girl to as I got older. And I mean, at 16 years old, I was very young in my senior year of high school. So I was picking what colleges I wanted to go to, what I wanted to do with my future. And I said, hey, I've always liked this, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Well, basically, in my end of my junior year of LaSalle College, a prescription pain pill changed the rest of my life. It changed my life course trajectory, in my opinion. I did go through some struggles, but it has changed me for the better. When I was in treatment, I always found myself like relating more to the clinicians than the other people I was there with regards to, I loved what they stood for and how a lot of them had gone through their own struggles and made something of it, and tried to help people and educate people with their own life experiences. So I found myself really wanting to emulate that and wanting to be who they were in their position. So once I got clean, I decided to start looking into different programs. And I stumbled across the Elms College program, which I was like, oh my God, that's perfect for me. I'm a non-traditional student. So I found this program and it was great. I loved it. I was in my first semester and ended up unexpectedly pregnant with a very difficult pregnancy and labor. So as Maureen stated, I did take some time off. I took a year to really get myself ready and fully grasp what I needed to do. I wanted to be prepared for it. I didn't want to have like give my half effort for anything. So I did take the year off, and I ended up coming back stronger than ever. I've had straight A's since I've been back at school. I've learned like that I'm a very empathetic person. I'm an active listener, and I have a really true desire to help other people. From start to finish, I'm really a different person than I was when I started this program. And I really do believe that I've grown a lot. I've become a mother. I've become a great student. I have 4 years in recovery. And most importantly, I've become a social worker. What I've learned, I think, throughout this most importantly, what I've learned is that you can't judge a book by its cover, because originally I was that book. I was a struggling addict. But given the proper tools and everything and the proper support, I've turned into a great book. So from here, we're going to learn how I did that. Competency 1. So I am loading 11%, just in my little baby steps here at the beginning of Competency 1. I will use self-reflection and self-regulation in order to manage my own personal biases and maintain professionalism. I will exhibit a professional appearance, behavior, and I will have regular meetings with my field supervisor and receive guidance to obtain that. So right here on this slide, you will see 2 pieces of evidence that I have used throughout my field placement to kind of reflect and self-regulate. I did journals every single time I went to my field placement, which was about 3 times a week, and I also did multiple process recordings throughout the time of my field experience in order to really reflect upon situations and get the most out of them. And we would receive feedback on these as well. So it was a great way to really reflect on my personal opinions of situations and also my teachers. This is another piece of evidence for the reflection. This is a journal excerpt about a classification meeting and me remaining professional and seeing how much I've grown throughout the experience, and being aware of my personal feelings and talking about them with my supervisor in order to receive feedback. So the reflection of the self-reflection and regulation. Oh, are we echoing?
It was Jess.
Okay. So, through self-reflection and regulation, I have really been able to manage my personal beliefs and experiences in order to help grow. I've become very aware of my biases and my weaknesses as well. And I've had growth through field supervision, through education, through journaling, and through process recordings. I've been working with populations that I originally would have never worked with. And it's really because I've been able to self-reflect and manage my biases in order to break down those biases and to use tools to allow myself to remain aware in order to best serve every single population that I am dealing with. The second bullet point of Competency 1 is demonstrating professional demeanor and behavior in the appearance of oral, written, and electronic communication. I wanted to include my field contract with my field supervisor because there was a list of different things that I did to obtain that. The next slide, you will also see a letter for a college recommendation for the master's program from my supervisor stating my professional behavior and how much of a pleasure it was to work with me. And then also my direct observation evaluation form, which you can see my evaluation was very excellent. So it proves that I was very professional. And then my evaluation of that would be that I really saw a lot of my hard work validated throughout the evaluations. It was great to meet with my field supervisor and kind of go over the evaluations from the first evaluation where I had room for growth to the second evaluation where I saw a lot of that growth pay off. I had increased excellence rather than mostly very goods. I had excellence. So I definitely saw some growth within myself as well as he did. For my strengths, I feel that I'm a very quick learner and I adapt to like a lot of rules at the jail in different situations. Weakness, I would say that I do have a lack of experience in social work areas such as the jail. It was a very intimidating experience with regards to like how you look, how you act, how you dress, all of the different rules being locked in, the politics behind it all. But through education and my personal skill set and working with my professors and my supervisor, I was able to take something that I was intimidated walking into the jail the first day to leaving feeling very comfortable with the jail and feeling like I've grown tremendously. Oops, sorry. The next slide would be research ethics from Kathy's class, where I have scored a 99%, so I am certified in research ethics by the Global Health. And I've also included my social work research class and my ethics class grades to show how much I've grown in research. Research originally was a very weak subject for me, and it was also something that I was very intimidated by. I started the class saying, I don't know how I'm even going to pass this class, and left with an A and feeling very, very strong in my ability to do research. And it proved out to be very accurate because I had a great time conducting my research project at the jail, and it proved very successful. So now, because we're skipping several competencies, we are developing. And on to competency 9, we are going to evaluate practice with individuals, families, groups, organizations, and communities. I'm going to critically analyze and evaluate the intervention and processes, and then I'm going to apply the findings of the evaluation in order to improve the effect of practice at different levels. And at this point, I am loading 99% because I have gained all of those percentages from the competencies to get me to this point. So again, I have also included my field contract and the different things that I have done in order to remain and learn different competencies with 9. I've used different tools for evaluations at appropriate times. I've used theoretical frameworks when evaluating clients. My research has analyzed and monitored and evaluated the intervention processes through pre-tests and post-tests. And my evaluation findings will also be presented to the agency in order to improve practice effectiveness. So this slide is about critically analyzing and evaluating the intervention processes. Now, in order to obtain these results, I had 12 different pre-tests and 12 different post-tests of multiple answers. Getting these results, as you could see at the bottom, took 3 different spreadsheets and a whole lot of equations. This was a major weakness for me. I had never used Excel before, and I had no clue how to go about plugging in these equations. So I did actually have to phone a tutor through this all, and it was very difficult to do over the phone because of this whole COVID thing. But I was able to grow throughout this process and also exhibit a weakness of mine. Throughout this all, I need to learn Excel better. But with this, you can see the increased change of the different questions throughout the pre-test and post-test. So you can see a lot of percentage increases, which is positive results, and then you can also see a decrease in anxiety. So that's good. Those are all positive results. I took those results and I critically analyzed them. I put them in a graph from the Excel data to show the true increases of these interventions. Now you can see I broke them off into the different dimensions for the purpose of the graph. Physical exercise, we went from 8 people who were doing exercise to 12 people. For healthy eating, we went from 5 people to 11 people healthy eating in the post-test. Self-care, we went from 10 to 12. We also, mindfulness skills practicing, we went from 4 to 10. Those are great increases. And so on and so forth. And then at the end, you can see the people who have improved knowledge of wellness skills is 11 out of 12. The people who plan to continue these wellness practices and interventions once the group ended was 11 out of 12. So those are some very positive results. Reflecting upon that, I was very happy to see the results. There was limited physical activity due to my security clearance and having to remain in the podule group room. So with that being said, the men still enjoyed the physical piece of activity that I had them do, which was myofascial release. But I would have preferred to do something better for physical activity. So my suggestion for that would be to increase the physical activity in some certain way, which I will get to in my next section, which will be the suggestions. The last week of my group was also impacted by COVID-19. And due to my ongoing relationships and the positive relationships I had built throughout my fieldwork experience, I was able to phone a friend who worked at the jail and have them hand out my post-tests for me because I was physically not allowed in anymore. I went from one day being allowed in to the next day not. So I was able, through that person, to have all of my post-tests given. But the group was impacted because we did miss that last week. However, we did still show positive results, so I am happy about that. And then, again, my weakness, Excel. Strengths, I had a lot of growth and continued growth through facilitating this group. I originally had never facilitated an all-men's group before, so this was a giant area of increased experience for me, which showed a lot of growth. And I also did learn a little bit about Excel, so that was great. And then applying the findings in order for the evaluation to improve effectiveness of the practice at different levels. So below you're going to see all the different data broken down into percentages, and I believe these percentages truly show the successfulness of the group. So we have 33.3% increase in inmates who exercise, 36.4% increase in the times a week that they exercise. So that means before they weren't exercising as much. 50% increase in healthy eating habits. 50% increase in mindfulness skills being practiced. 16.7% increase in self-care being practiced. 33.3% increase in spirituality being practiced. 16.7% increase belief in a higher power. A negative 8.3% decrease in the inmates' stress levels. And then 91.7% for both of the following. Inmates said that this group would help improve the knowledge of wellness, and inmates plan to continue to use this skill after the group ends. So those percentages truly do show the success of the group. Now here, the next 3 slides, I do have some inmate, I had them create journals for me because I wanted them to reflect on their experience. This was not something that was graded. However, it was something I wanted for my own personal reflections, for growth of the group, and for suggestions to the agency. So these inmates in these next few slides kind of signified what I was already feeling. A lot of them thought that the group should be screened to have people who would take it more seriously. And that was something that I originally did want to do, but was worried it would affect the research. I didn't want it to be biased at all. So I had multiple, those two had said that they would like the group to be screened. And then this third slide talks about how more at programs or activities that involve physical activities such as working out in the weight room or basketball, handball activity, that they would like that. This also signified something that I was already interested in suggesting. So, from that, the findings and suggestions for the agency. Based on these findings, I do suggest that the group continue to be held. I do have a lot of suggestions for the group, though. I do want to have the group screened for people who will take it more seriously and who are truly interested in changing their behaviors, not just interested in good time for their the credits of good time. I also would like to have the group have more physical activity, and if it's run by someone else rather than an intern, they will have a higher level of security, be able to leave the module and be able to have maybe say go to the gym, go outside, do like a different recreational time, maybe go for a walk on the track. And then also a lot more outdoor activity in the summer months, because I really do feel that vitamin D plays a positive, it's a positive thing for people who are trying to boost their mood. And it would just be something really nice for them, especially because they're always stuck inside. So the outdoor activity would really boost that. And then the last thing I wanted to suggest was increasing the length of the group. Now, I was limited due to being able to get the group approved and all of the politics behind it and everything. But I really do feel that maybe extending it to a 3-month-long group would be really positive. But due to the fact that there's 4 different dimensions, I figured the more time they have on each dimension, the more impact it would have. So with my suggestions, I am going to say that they should do it like a 3-month-long group and hold it prior to inmates' release. So kind of prepare for their release by holding this group. Now, my internship and we all have been affected by COVID-19. So I just wanted to lastly say a prayer for everybody. Say my thoughts and prayers are with you and hope that we're all well. I do also want to thank everybody, my cohort, my family, my teachers, Maureen, Scott, Kelly, Tom, Kathy, John. You guys have all been such a positive influence on me throughout this all. I don't think I would have been here without every single one of you. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody is staying safe and being well. And with that being said, you have 100% a social worker. Now, wait. My future, I will be graduating with a bachelor's degree. Then I will be attending graduate school at St. Louis University through the Elms College, because I have received my acceptance. And from there, I will obtain my master's licensure and then probably work a couple years in the field and then go on to obtaining my licensed individual practitioner licensure. So I have continued my professional growth through that, and I hope to continue to keep learning, but we have a social worker here, folks.
Good job.